Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another series of Digix Webinar. And today we have Attores coming on board for the second pitch with a revision of their proposal. So let me just introduce Taurus briefly. Taurus is a smart contract as a service startup based here in Singapore. They have David and Gaurang. So let me just allow them to speak.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Good evening to you in the North American and South American hemisphere. My name is David. We are Attores, sometimes pronounced Attores. We're still trying to figure out the best pronunciation for the company. We're doing smart contracts as a service, as a platform here, based in Singapore. Next page, Gaurang. There you go. So Gaurang is actually controlling the slides, and I'll be presenting. My full name is David Moskowitz. I am the CEO and co-founder of Attores. My background is in the combination of technology and marketing. Before starting up Attores with Gaurang, I operated a Bitcoin brokerage here in Singapore, started that in 2013, and sold that in 2015. I'm also a board member of Access, which is our cryptocurrency and industry association here in Singapore. So last year, when I sold off Coin Republic, I became very involved with Ethereum, very interested in smart contracts, and that's when I met my co-founder, Gaurang.
Hey, hi guys. I'm Gaurang. I've been working in startups for many years now. I worked in fintech, artificial intelligence, data science, and now I'm working in blockchain. So when I met David last year, after that I've been developing and coding some smart contracts in Ethereum. So now we have started this company and we are submitting this proposal to Digix for creating a trading platform. David, please go ahead.
Yep, so third guy who's not on the call with us today is Vincent Hong. He is Treasury Project Manager over at Credit Suisse. Prior to helping us out, he was also a CFO for a Bitcoin trading platform some of you may know of. It's called Magner, formerly BTC SX. So he's helping us with some of the financial instruments. We also have a number of advisors to our company, including a lawyer named Nizam Ismail, who's one of the partners of one of the largest law firms here in Singapore. Benjamin Chan, who is a lead developer over at BitGo, which I'm sure most of you guys know. BitGo multi-signature wallet. So he's also the creator of the Etherly multi-sig Ethereum wallet. So we talk to him fairly regularly about what we're doing and get suggestions from him as well. We have another advisor. His name is Ian Miles, who knows all about disruptive technologies, very well in tune with what's going on in blockchain as well, and incredibly well connected. He basically has everyone we ever need to talk to in Singapore on speed dial, which is fantastic. And we're also bringing on some more mentors. We recently were accepted into the FinLab Accelerator in Singapore, which is an accelerator set up by UOB, which is a large bank here, in combination with the IDA, or Infocom Investments, which is the government investment arm. So we were accepted to that. We started that back in May. So we also received some investment from them as well. First off, before we get going, I would like to thank everyone in the community for giving us such great feedback on the last proposal. We have made a series of adjustments to it in line with what we think is much more in tune to what you guys want as far as a longer-term investment in the product itself or in the platform itself. So we're definitely open to suggestions and open to ideas from the community to make this the best possible platform for you guys. All right, so as far as my involvement with Ethereum and blockchain, Bitcoin in general, I'm one of the organizers of the local Bitcoin meetup. I'm a board member of a local cryptocurrency society. Gaurang is a co-organizer of the Ethereum meetup in Singapore. They just had a very large one here a couple of days ago, over 100 and something signups. I think 80 people came all together. Next week, we're going to have Vitalik come over and speak. He's actually going to be speaking at 3 or 4 different events here in Singapore, which is very cool. One of them is going to be the Ethereum meetup, where we got him to talk about some of the more deeper technology issues with Ethereum. So very involved here in Singapore, and we're trying our best to kind of promote Singapore, Ethereum, blockchain technology, cryptocurrency here, and promote Singapore as well as a hub for that. So we're also releasing some open source code to the community. Right now we've released 3 different contracts to the community, specifically for Digix. One to swap gold tokens, another one to swap the ownership token or the DAO token, and another one that you can swap your badges for Ether. And you can do this using an escrow wallet right on the blockchain, so there's no risk that you typically have with swapping these things on an exchange. And you can go to our Medium post to learn how to do that. You can also go to Attores.com, and all those contracts are linked there. So what we're proposing is to build a deployment platform that's going to allow you to create and deploy contracts, swap contracts, forward contracts, binary options, other exotics, and I'll get into all of these in a second, and also have an order book so you can see the current status of all these contracts, specifically for you as the user, as well as for the entire platform, so that you can enter either on the buy side or the sell side of those contracts. So you're probably somewhat familiar with swaps, just exchanging your gold token for Ether. That's just a standard straightforward swap, but we're also building a deployment system for creating forwards. Forwards are contracts where you exchange something in the future. So you would put your contract, or I'm sorry, you would deploy a contract which would basically say you put in a little bit of a Digix gold, the other person puts in a little Digix gold, and depending on what the price of Ether is in the future, you will either get back more or less Digix gold in relation to that up or down state of the value. We're also working on a very interesting contract called a binary option, which allows you to do basically a win-lose on a change in the price of Ether or Bitcoin, and this speculation again would be in Digix. I think most people would probably use the Digix gold token to do this, but people might be interested in using the DGD token to do this as well. And a slightly more exotic version of this is something we're calling parimutuel binaries, in which case you can make a series of speculative guesses, where each day you would be basically saying the price is going to be above, let's say, 14 Ether today. Tomorrow I think it's going to be below 15. The day after it's going to be above 16. And at the end of the series, depending on whether or not you are correct on each of those days, there would be an ultimate winner. So you could have you could enter into this contract with a single Ether, and everyone else would enter in with a single Ether. So you could have a pool of 10 or 100 Ether in the contract itself, but at the end of the series, at the end of the, say, 7 days, you could wind up walking away with 10 or 100 Ether, depending on whether or not you were correct in those speculative guesses. So this is a example of our swap template. This is our proof of concept for the swap template, and after we get through the presentation, Gorang's going to go ahead and show you a demonstration of this in action. But basically on the swap template, you have the ability to choose what the asset is you're going to be swapping. In this case, we're just showing you the DGD token is going to be swapped here, and you would swap it for Ether. And you need to enter an expiry date because you don't want this contract just to be open forever. So there's a closing date to the contract when someone can enter it. And then you just go ahead and hit create, and that will bring you to the next page. Okay, and on this next page, it's just going to review the terms of it, and you would then confirm the contract, and then you would send Ether to deploy the contract. There might be a small fee attached to this as well, a small deployment fee, which would go to the DAO holders as well in this model, and it would possibly be, or it would also be shared with the platform itself to help cover some of the costs. And we'll get into those fees breakdowns in a moment. So this is the platform overview. You start off by just making a simple registration of a username and password, and that's what's going to allow you to view your own user database and keep track of your own contracts. But we're not going to require a lot of information from the user. So you would then go and create a contract, either directly from the user dashboard or when you first enter in, you can go ahead and create the contract. After creating the contract, you can then you would then go ahead and make the payment for the contract. The contract would then get entered into our local storage, as well as be deployed into the blockchain. We're using a local storage mechanism in order to speed up the viewing of the order book. Now, all of this will be on the blockchain as far as contract deployment and information about the contracts, but we are going to also be storing that locally just so it's a little bit quicker on the user's end to see these contracts and the states of them. As the contract conditions change, as people enter the contract, that order book would be updated with that. And then we'll have an outside cron job and Oracle feed. So because contracts on Ethereum don't know what's going on in the outside world, you have to submit information to the contract. So you do need an outside feed for that. We're using an Oracle feed. We're looking at Oracleize for this. We're also looking at Reality Keys for this. And you need a cron job running. A cron job is just a system program that periodically runs, and this would be running on an outside computer and just checking the dates to see whether or not it should be pinging the contracts to be executed, and also checking with the Oracle to feed the Oracle information into the contract. So once the contract is executed, it goes ahead and pays out according to the terms of the contract. So this is something that we've changed based on the feedback from the community. What we've decided to do is once we get approval for our proposal here, we'll go ahead and set up a subsidiary company to Attores. So this subsidiary is going to be essentially the platform itself. So the DigixDAO is going to go ahead and fund that platform, and the revenues from the platform would then flow back into the DigixDAO holder. Attores, what we want to do is focus on our platform of building smart contracts and deployment engine, and so this way DAO trading can focus on the trading platform. So as far as the revenue share then on the trading platform, for the first year, 100% of that deployment fee is going to go right to the DigixDAO, because we're going to be getting the contractor fee for the milestones at that point, and we want to make sure that the DAO holders are getting revenue from the platform as well. So you are going to be getting, of course, revenue from the trading of the Digix Gold, but I know a lot of people in the community wanted also revenue from the deployment. As years go on, the platform itself will need to maintain itself, so there does need to be revenue for the platform. It's not clear yet if deployment fees are going to be enough to sustain that, so there might be a service fee that needs to be talked about once the final milestone has been hit, or once the first year has been hit, in order to maintain the system. But we've set it up so that every year, for the first 3 years, it's going to be a 20% reduction. So the first year the DAO will get 100%, the next year it'll get 80%, the third year it'll get 60%, and then in year 4 it'll drop to a 50-50 split from there onward for the deployment fee, between deployment fee for the DAO and the platform.
So I would just like to mention that these figures, if we are just proposing these figures, we can even have some other discussions with the community. Please let us know if you think this is right. We are open to negotiations, definitely.
Yeah, we're definitely open to suggestions on this, but I think that this is a pretty good setup as far as separating out the company from the trading platform, and making sure that the DigixDAO holders have a very strong participatory influence on what's going on in the trading platform, and that the trading platform is focused on the needs of the DAO.
Yeah, and also please note that the name of this company, DAO Trading Private Limited, is not fixed yet. We haven't set up this company, so we might change the name as well. So this is just placeholder.
We'll set up the company and register a specific website for this once we get the approval on the proposal. So the benefits for the DGD holders, again, after a lot of feedback from the community, you're going to be getting the transaction fees from the on-chain DGX swaps. So the more of these interesting instruments that we can put onto the platform, the more trading we can get on the platform, the more on-chain DGX transaction you guys are going to have, and it's going to flow back to the DGX holders. So the deployment fees are going to flow back to the DGD holders too. Now you might want to consider, or we'll have to discuss this as far as how much the deployment fee is going to be. Right now we're looking at 2 times whatever the gas fee is, but this might vary depending on the complexity of the contract. So we might need to move to just a set amount above gas. And in fact, the first year you might want to consider not having a deployment fee in order to spur on usage of the platform. But this is a minor issue that we can discuss. And again, this would be specific to the platform's decision, or specific to the community's decision on what to do with the platform as far as that fee goes. And just keep in mind that the platform does need to be able to pay its own expenses, and in that way there does need to be some sort of revenue model for it. And so after the first year, again, it's going to be 80% deployment fee, drop to 50%. Eventually in an 180, 60, 50 manner. So as far as the milestones that we've put out, as far as what we're going to be building here, so we're going to start with releasing a beta for the swaps in the order book, followed by a public release of that. So we'll definitely like to get some feedback once we have the beta from the community. We'll invite a small group of people to come over and try out the platform. And then once that's secure and working properly, we'll go ahead and publicly release that. And then we'll start working on the forwards as well. We possibly might do forwards and swaps around the same time, but we'll need to see how stable it is first with the swaps, and then we'll go ahead and release the public forwards as well. Milestone 2, we're going to look to do the binaries. Once that's been released, we'll go ahead and start working on the parimutuel binaries. I really think that the parimutuels have a good chance of getting a lot of activity, so it's quite exciting. One of the cool things about focusing on contracts versus building something which you would consider an exchange is the contracts allow you to do a lot more interesting exotic instruments than a straight exchange might allow. So milestone 4, we're going to look to add additional indexes to trade against. So right now we're looking at NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange in China, A50, and this is going to be depending on the feeds that we're able to get. Some of these feeds can be quite expensive. Some of them are easily available. So we'll have to figure out the best feed to be able to provide and make sure that that's at a reasonable cost to the platform. So we're going to be trading against those 3 indexes. And then we'll go ahead and work on a couple of Forex pairs. These are the most popular Forex pairs that we see, Euro USD, the pound, and USD. And we could also look at other commodities as well. I know oil trading is quite popular, so it might be interesting to trade against the price of oil too. And again, we'll listen to the community on what you guys want as far as trading pairs. As soon as B2C Relay is stable, we're going to be looking to integrate that as well, and that should help bring in more people into the platform. As you know, I think the Bitcoin universe is slightly larger than the Ethereum universe. We want to definitely bring in people out of Bitcoin into being able to trade on the platform as well. And then as soon as the Digix API Light Wallet, or I'm sorry, as soon as the Digix Light Wallet is out and has the APIs available, we'll work on integrating that into the system as well, so you'll be able to trade right off your Digix wallet. So as far as our cost structure, we've basically taken a very low profit cost structure here, if any. So these costs are, I think, very reasonable as far as typical salaries. So project manager 5,000, blockchain developer. Blockchain developers are typically very expensive, but we're huge enthusiasts for cryptocurrency and the technology. So as a startup, we're taking a pay cut to make all this happen, as I'm sure a lot of you guys out there are familiar with the startup world. You take a pay cut often when you go into a startup. We'll also be looking for another back-end developer. Right now we have somebody that we're working with that we're hoping to be able to bring on as well. A front-end developer we have already, and we'll continue to be working with, and we'll probably be looking for more of all of these as we go along. UI, UX to make it look beautiful and make it easy to use. Some of these other expenses we'll be covering, the company will be covering, Attores will be covering, because we are also building a platform, and so we'll be sharing some of these expenses. So office, marketing, and hosting. As a startup, we actually get a lot of freebies given to us. So hosting is a good example of that. We actually get quite a bit of hosting discounts available. So as far as the milestone payments, here, we're going to be getting an upfront payment to start the project. I think it's a very reasonable startup cost to get it going. And milestone 1, which would be the beta release and the open release of both the swap and the forwards contracts. Once those are completed and approved as being completed, there'll be another milestone payment on that. And each of these milestones are contingent upon public release. The last 2 milestones here, milestone 5 and milestone 6, are for the BTC relay and for the Light Wallet integration. Okay, so as far as ROI, the project full cost here, we're looking at $284,400, and that's to cover the salaries here of the different developers and front-end people. We estimate the break-even to be about 218 million in DGX trades. This doesn't include deployment fees, which in reality will be quite small because it'll be a slight amount above gas costs. So most of the profit, I think, is going to be for the DAO is going to be in the DGX trading. And this break-even chart here is based on the DGX numbers as far as what they estimate as far as trading volume in general for gold tokens. We're going to be doing a release of the funds are going to be purely based on milestones after that initial payment. But the return on investment is going to vary depending on the total uptake of each instrument. So, for example, things like the binaries, I think, will have a lot more usage, or they'll have a lot of usage, and I think could help with the ROI. And as the community makes requests too, we can look at some more exotic instruments too. So we're also going to be building, we're going to be building this off of APIs. So anyone can come in and build on top of that, and they'll be able to use the contract writing and deployment engine to deploy contracts themselves using these APIs, and also be able to build their own order book. So if they have an idea of how to show an order book better than we can, which is always possible, they can build their own order book. So, as far as risks to DGD holders, there's always a risk that volume won't be what we expect, or that possibly liquidity in the order books won't be so strong. The risk of failure to complete the project, that's always a risk with any sort of long-term milestone project, but the payments are only after milestones, so I think that has a somewhat limited risk to the DGD holders. Legal risks, we are dealing with financial things. There's always the possibility for regulation that we're not aware of at the moment, or that could be released in the future. In Singapore, cryptocurrencies are considered intangible assets, so it's currently not regulated. As far as the platform itself, I don't think that we will have any issues with legal. And again, we have an advisor who's helping us understand that quite well. As far as technical risks, always issues with code. There could be an issue with the contract, possible gas fees, things like that. So we just need to be able to manage that as best we can. Communication, if you want to get in touch with us, I think a lot of you guys have been posting on the Digix Slack channel. That might be the best way for this specific platform. If you're interested in more what Attores is doing, go ahead and sign up for the Slack channel, and we'll keep you up to date on that. You can also email us, Gaurang, the CTO, my co-founder at Attores, or myself, David at Attores. And I think that's it. We'll go ahead and show the demonstration now of the proof of concept that we have. Gaurang, if you want to go ahead with that.
Guys, so now I'll be showing the demonstration of the platform. So as you see, this is the web client which is connected to a private blockchain node on my machine. So this is just for the simulation. So as you can see, right now we have 2 contract templates. The first one is a forward contract, and second is a swap contract. So first, let me go through a forward contract. You see, my aim is to make it as easy to deploy a smart contract as possible. It can't get easier than just filling out 3-4 values and deploying the contract. So see, in this case, if you suppose you want to speculate against a digital asset like Ether or Bitcoin, you can choose any of them. So we'll be adding many more assets here. You get the spot price of that asset. You choose the execution type, that is a forward contract. And now what you're seeing is after suppose 7 days on the 3rd of June, the price of Bitcoin is going to be $460. So having said this, you create the contract. On the back end, the contract gets submitted to the blockchain, it gets mined, and then you can see the contract here. So this is the contract address. And so for this example, I'll be taking the help of two people, Bob and Alice. For all you crypto geeks out there, you might know these people. Alice always wants to send Bob something and she can't send it in a secure manner. So she has to find some private key or some mechanism to do it. I was quite angry with those guys when I was learning cryptography. Anyway, jokes apart. So in this case, we are assuming that Bob will be the short party and Alice will go long on this contract. So to begin with, what will happen is both of them will put their money or their cryptocurrency in this contract, and on the settlement date, the contract will look at the current price of Bitcoin and settle it out. To simulate that, I'm just having two buttons here. I'll say short it. When at this point, oh, Bob might not be able to send it because he has less ether. Just send some ether to Bob. Bob has 27. Now Bob will be able to send 10 ether to the contract. Yeah. So now you can see that the contribution by short party is 10 ether. Similarly, we can put 10 ether from the long party as well. So wait for it to mine and then refresh the page. Now you can see that both short and long have paid 10 ether each. And the total ether in the contract is 22. Now let's just assume that today is 3rd of June and the price of Bitcoin is above $460. So in a sense, Bob has won this speculation and hence he will get 1.1 times his contribution. So that means he'll be getting 11 ether back and Alice will be getting 9 ether. So we can simulate that by calling the payout method. Yeah. So now you can see that Bob got 11 and Alice got 9. So after this example, I would like to show you, so one more thing here is that to make it easy for people to send Ether, you can also generate a QR code. Anyway, so we'll go to the swap contract. So now a swap contract is nothing but a escrow contract in which both sides, Alice and Bob, will put their assets and it will swap the assets. So we have open source free swap contract templates for the Digix Gold token, DGD tokens and DGD paddles. So I'll just demonstrate that here again. So first of all, we select the type of token. You can select DGD, set the price of the token, 1 ether, just for demonstration, and number of tokens to send, that is 100 tokens. So at this point, I say create, will submit my contract to the blockchain. We'll have to wait for a couple of moments. Now, as you can see, the contract has been submitted. This is the address of the swap contract, and it has 0 tokens right now. So as you can see, the seller has 10,000 tokens in this case. So just to simulate the sending of tokens, I'll click this button, send token. Now, when the transaction has been mined, the swap contract will contain 100 tokens at that point of time. Yeah. So now, as you can see, swap contract contains 100 tokens that have been sent by the seller, and the price of each token is 1 ether. So now, if the buyer wants to buy, suppose 10 tokens, he will have to send 10 ether to the swap contract. When he does that, at this point, the swap contract will atomically swap the assets. So it will swap the tokens for ether and send it to both the parties. So this is a really secure way of doing it. You don't have to go to an exchange to trade your assets or anything. And after this, we are also working on more sophisticated swap contract in which multiple buyers and multiple sellers can participate. And then we'll try to match the buyers and sellers in a first in, first out method. So that's actually an interesting piece of code. So we are testing it. I might be releasing it in a couple of days. So when we refresh the page, we can see that swap contract only has 90 tokens. And the ether went from the buyer to the seller. So I think that's it for the demo. David, do you have to say anything?
No. As far as the forward contract, so in this POC, we're using Ether as the forward, but in the actual platform, it would be gold.